Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today we are going to look at Judas Priest. So this kind of follows up our two-part History of Judas Priest show. Again, my co-host here today is Chris Alo.
Hey, everybody.
We're doing all Judas Priest stuff, so we're each going to tell you our top 10 favorite Judas Priest songs of all time. And then as a bonus at the end of the episode, once we've done that, we're going to quickly discuss a little bit of the Judas Priest members' solo stuff, which we didn't really get to in the two-part History of Judas Priest. So, Chris, why don't you kick us off with your top 10? You can start from number 10, go down to number 1.
Started coming in at number 10, and I'm sure people will get mad at me for not having this higher. But Exciter, the opening track from Stained Class, which many, of course, count as being one of the first
speed
metal tracks. Number 9, Devil's Child from Screaming for Vengeance. I'm a big sucker for big, simple riffs, and Devil's Child gets me every time. Riding on the Wind from Screaming for Vengeance. I just love that 1-2 punch of Electric Eye and then Riding on the Wind. Number 7, Running Wild from Hellbent for Leather. I just love that song. Again, the riff. Number 6, a song that I don't think gets enough love, and it's one of my all-time favorite Priest tracks, Between the Hammer and the Anvil from Painkiller. It's just, that's my favorite song off that record, and luckily I was able to see them do it live once. Number 5 is a classic, Electric Eye. I just always love that song.
How can you not, right?
Classic Judas Priest, sci-fi, metal monster. It's just a great tune. Number 4 is a cover, and I don't care, because I didn't know it was a cover for years and years. Green Manalishi
Jimmy Crack
with the two-prong crown, originally from Fleetwood Mac.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, I just love that song. Again, from Hellbent for Leather, which is my favorite Priest record. Number 3, The Grinder from British Steel. Again, I'm a sucker for big, heavy, simple riffs, and Grinder's got it. Number 2, Love Bites from Defenders of the Faith. I don't know what it is. I didn't even know that was a bass in the beginning of the song. For years, I thought it was keyboards. But, man, I just love that song. I love vampire movies. And my number 1, this was a tough one. But, again, from Hellbent for Leather, Delivering the Goods. It's just a great song. I love Halford's vocal. And that's it. That's my top 10.
So, interestingly enough, our lists are, completely different. Which is cool.
That's definitely cool.
Which is definitely cool, because when I had Ryan Scow on the show and we were doing our favorite Uriah Heep and Slayer ones, our lists were very, very similar. We didn't plan it that way. So in this instance, completely different. So Chris, I think, has got more of the late 70s into the 80s into early 90s stuff, whereas the majority of mine are from the 70s albums, which not really surprising. I had a feeling it would be that way. So coming in at number 10 off of Sin After Sin is Starbreaker.
Great tune. I love that song.
Coming in at number 9, Bloodstone.
That was
almost,
almost.
I'm a huge Bloodstone fan. I always have been. Coming in at number 8, off of British Steel, Rapid Fire.
Great.
Underrated gem from that album, in my opinion. Coming in at number 7, off of Stained Class, my favorite album, Savage.
Interesting. That's an interesting one.
Yep. Coming in at number 6, Island of Domination.
Great tune.
Yeah. From the Sad Wings of Destiny album. Coming in at number 5, off of Sin After Sin. It's getting late. Sinner.
A classic.
A great tune. Coming in at number 4, Beyond the Realms of Death.
Yeah. Co-written by Les Banks. What more can you say? Just a great quasi-heavy ballad that...
and that second half of it just kills, Coming in at number 3, Dissident Aggressor.
Classic.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that tune. I love the changes in it. It's just that the riffs are just incredible. Coming in at number 2, and I'm surprised it's not on your list, is Victim of Changes.
Yeah, it was tough. It's really
this
tough.
It's not easy, right? It's not easy doing these things.
To boil it down to 10 favorites of a band like this is difficult.
And of course, that's off the Sad Wings of Destiny. Although I prefer the version on the
Unleashed in the
East, obviously. That's my number 2. So coming in at number 1, drum roll, please. Saints in Hell from Stained Class.
A classic.
Yeah. Just,
and thankfully they did it this year.
I was extremely happy.
Well, we got my number one and your number one. We both got this year with Delivering the Goods and
I
Saints
know,
and
and
Hell,
that was on my periphery list, Delivering the Goods. In fact, it's really paying me to not include it here. But, sometimes you got to do this stuff.
Yeah, and with a band like Priest, so many great songs, this really was tough, cutting it down to 10.
Yeah. What I generally do when I do these is I go through every album and I pick off my absolute favorite tracks and I compile a master list, and then I put down 1 through 10, and I start drawing from and substituting, putting back and change, and it's like trying to solve a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy.
That's what I did. I went through each record again, and I was like, wow. And then the master list was quite big.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our top 10s for Priest. So we promised to touch on a little bit of the solo stuff. So Chris is going to talk a little bit about the Halford and the fight stuff and Tipton solo, so on and so forth. I wanted to just give you a little smattering of some of the stuff that the guys did away from each other.
So the very first thing that Rob did was a song called "Light Comes Out of Black," which is this is a very rare promo CD single. This was recorded for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer CD soundtrack, and I love this song. And it's uncredited, but it's Pantera is the backing band, including Phil Anselmo on backing vocals. And it's just a great song. Halford is in awesome.
He was big into those guys, right?
Oh yeah. Hugely influential on Rob's next band, which was Fight, and this is the War of Words record, which came out. I think it's 1992. I want to say. I know
shortly after he left the band, right?
Yeah, I saw them twice on this tour. Once at the Chance in Poughkeepsie, which I thought was very interesting because he did 2 Sabbath covers. He only did 1 or 2 Priest songs and 2 Sabbath covers, which I thought was really strange. Yeah. But there's some good tunes on here. I really liked Into the Pit and Nailed to the Gun. I liked Kill It, Reality, A New Beginning. But there's a bit of filler on here. A Little Crazy. A couple of these other ones on here, War of Words. This was Rob Halford, really taking influence from Pantera. He wore baseball hats and ripped jeans, and all the leather and studs was long gone. And this was Rob Halford in the '90s, and he was going for a new audience. This album was a success. The follow-up was A Small Deadly Space, which I think came out in 1994.
So he pumped these out pretty quick.
Yeah. Other than the opening track, I Am Alive, it's pretty forgettable. I believe he toured with Voivod on this record, because I saw him twice on the first record. I didn't see him on this record, but this record did not sell as well. It kind of sank pretty quick. They did put out an EP, I guess, of some remixes and some live tracks. This was Mutations, and nobody cared. For whatever reason, this band died fairly quickly. When Priest was coming back with Ripper Owens with Jugulator, Rob Halford came up with the very strange record of Voyeurs from the band 2. And
I don't think I've heard anything from that.
It's pretty bad from what I remember. He's got John Five, who later went on to...
Good guitar player, man.
Really good guitar player. Went on to do stuff with David Lee Roth, Marilyn Manson. Yeah. He's been in Rob Zombie's band for 10 years. But it's Rob Halford trying to do an industrial record. If I remember right, I think Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails produced the record and helped put it out. But
Halford really wanted to break into the industrial scene.
Very much so. I think he did some shows with Rammstein at the time. I remember seeing him at the Irving Plaza in New York City when this record. It was actually, I think it was before this record actually hit the stands, or hit store shelves rather. And I'll never forget it because he came out and he played the entire album from start to finish, but nobody had ever heard the album yet. So
that's like suicide.
It was sold out show at the Irving Plaza, and it was just nothing but booze for the entire set.
Ouch.
Which was probably an hour. At the end of the set, he came out for the encores, and he mentioned Tony Iommi, and they did two Sabbath covers, and the lights came on, and the booze got even louder. People were throwing beers and whatever they could at the stage. I remember somebody got on the PA and made an announcement, the show is over, go home. I'll never forget this. There was a guy that had bought the whatever T-shirt that they were selling at the show, and he actually lit it on fire and threw it at the stage.
Wow!
I mean, that's how poorly received this project was.
Wow!
It did not go well for Rob Halford, and I guess this was probably
sank like a turd.
1997, 1998,
Jesus.
something like that.
Wow.
Of course, what didn't help him at the time, he went on MTV. He and I don't care. He came out of the closet and said, "Yeah, I'm a gay man. I'm always a gay man." That doesn't matter to me. What offended me as a fan was when he came out in the same interview and said, "Well, heavy metal is dead."
Yeah.
And that, to me, I took great offense to that. And of course,
a lot of fans, I'm sure,
a lot of fans did, and it didn't work. So he got his composure, and he came out in 2000. Pete mentioned it earlier with this record, Resurrection.
That's pretty strong.
Which is a really strong record, produced by Roy Z. Has appearances from Jeff Tate and Bruce Dickinson on the song "The One You Love to Hate." But just some fantastic songs in here. Resurrection, Made in Hell, Silent Screams. This was Halford literally trying to revive his career.
Returning to metal that he already declared was dead, right?
Yes, and it worked.
Yeah.
It definitely worked. I saw him several times on this tour, both headlining and opening for Iron Maiden and Queensryche. And the whole project was designed to get him back to metal god status, and he started referring to himself as the metal god in all the publicity. The advertising was the metal god, and it worked. And it was a great record. It was a good time. The follow-up came out in 2002. A lot of people did not like this record as much, but I really liked it. Came out in 2002, was Crucible. Again, if I'm not mistaken, produced by Roy Z. I love the record. I thought the songwriting was really just as strong. A lot of people didn't like the production on this record, and they did do a remixed, remastered version of both of these records a couple years ago. You could still get them, but I thought both of those records were really, really strong. He did come out with a double live record. This one has 28 songs.
Ooh,
and this is the original release. I also have the re-release, which has even more songs. But this is Live Insurrection, and this is the Halford Band live playing songs. And there's a bunch of cuts on here, including "Prisoner of Your Eyes" and "Heart of a Lion," both of which were recorded by Priest. And I think they're on. Aren't they on the? I think they're on the reissues on some of the Priest records.
So probably a good place to start if you don't have any of the Halford solo stuff, the solo band.
Oh yeah,
probably a good chunk of the studio stuff is played there live.
Absolutely, and since it's we're recording this in the middle of Christmas and New Year's. I remember interviewing Rob for this record. He had told me he always wanted to do a Christmas record, so he did it with Halford 3 Winter Songs, and I got to tell you, this album is completely forgettable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it now going, oh, it's got Holy Night, and
I remember when it came out, I was kind of like, eesh.
Yeah. I mean, I remember doing the interview because that was fun, but yeah, the record is totally forgettable, and almost equally as forgettable, I don't even have it here, I forgot to bring it, no pun intended, was Rob Halford, or just Halford 4 Made of Metal. It's got a race car on the front of the cover, and it's better than Halford 3, but still pretty forgettable. I think they came out in 2000.
Safe to say at this point in time, it was probably really good that these both Priest and Halford got back together.
Yeah, 3 and 4 had come out after Rob was already back in Priest. So to me, I kind of always felt, well, that's why the 3 and 4 were so subpar, because he was back in Priest. It didn't really matter what he put out.
Yeah.
These could have just been obligations for all we know. The two, I do have I think Pete has this one too. This one, I don't even know when this is from, but this is the one of the Al Atkins solo records. I think I got this at the show that I saw him at. It's got some Priest tracks like Never Satisfied, Caviar and Mess, Victim of Changes, and it's good.
It's good stuff.
Al he's a good.
I have a couple of his other solo albums that are pretty strong. He also has been doing these albums with Paul May, who's a British guitar player.
Oh, okay.
Very, very good. And the two of them doing like these kind of duo albums. Very, very strong.
He's a good vocalist. I mean, I don't, much like, and I'm sure people will disagree, much like had Paul Di'Anno stayed in Iron Maiden, I don't think Maiden would have reached the heights that they did. If Al Atkins would have stayed in Priest, maybe they'd still be around. And but I absolutely do not think they would be anywhere near what they are today.
Yeah.
But he's a good singer, so check out some of his stuff if you can. Glenn Tipton did 2 solo records, which K.K. Downing referred to as shit. This one is Baptism of Fire, which he had a bunch of people working on with him, like Robert Trujillo, Billy Sheehan, John Entwistle, Neil Murray, Cozy Powell, and recorded around the same time. I think these were all leftover tracks. I don't have it with me. The Entwistle. It's Tipton, Entwistle, and Powell. And what's the name of that record is Edge of the World. That came out in March of 2006, and it's okay. I mean, both records, they're kind of they're all right.
I expected more from both of them. With the caliber of the musicians that was on them, I was like, it didn't do a hell of a lot for me. Not terrible. But I expected a lot more.
Yeah, I think, and I know some people love it, but the vocals, I think, are really kind of weak. Yeah. On some songs, he almost kind of sounds like a really lame Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. Yeah. I could never get past the vocals.
Could you imagine, like, those 2 albums with, like, someone like Ronnie James Dio or Paul Rogers or something?
We'd have a totally different opinion, and I agree. I think he should have gotten a singer. I'm always, being a non-musician, I love musicians, and I'm always fascinated by guys that were guitar players that could suddenly just start to sing and do really well, like Zakk Wylde or Pepper Keenan from COC. But Glenn Tipton is not one of those guys. I don't think he should sing. No. But yeah, that's I think that's it as far as the solo stuff, right? K.K. Downing, he's been out of Priest now 7 years, and
kind of quiet. Other than his book. Maybe now that he's got his book out of the way, he can put out an album or something.
Totally. I know there was a one-off project where they got like Ripper Owens, I thought it was K.K. Downing and Les Binks, and I thought they did a Priest cover song for some weird project. I think the 3 of them should get together and do a Priest tribute thing and go on the road, because I would totally buy a ticket for that.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Hell, maybe bring Al Atkins along. And,
Why not, right?
Why not? Dig up somebody else while you're at it. Everyone's got to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well,
but yeah.
So that's Priest solo stuff and our top 10 songs for Priest. So I think we've got plenty of Judas Priest for you guys to dig into here. Parts 1 and 2 of the history of, as well as this show here. So once again, Chris, thanks for coming along and joining us here.
You can read my monthly heavy metal column in More Sugar magazine, which is on newsstands in the Hudson Valley, or at www.moresugar.com.
There you go. Check it out. Chris is talking to a lot of cool people, reviewing a lot of good new releases and stuff. So
Talking metal.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you also visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube fairly often. We got more top 10 songs coming up. Deep tracks on classic albums. I got a couple rants or two I'm cooking up too. There's all sorts of stuff. Just got to find the time to do it. So take care, guys. We'll see you real soon. Thanks for coming.